The following program contains scenes which may be offensive to certain viewers. Viewer discretion is advised.
That's a nasty bump you got on your head there, son.
My legs. I can barely feel them.
I found you out there. You were lying face down in the field. Most would have thought you was dead.
Thank you.
Well, I'm just glad you're finally awake. I figured I'd be burying you within a couple of days.
Awake? How long was I...
Unconscious? Not more than 3 days, I would think.
Three days?
Now, don't get all worked up. I knew a friend in the war, took a mortar close to the chest, out like a light for 3 whole weeks. I'm just surprised you survived.
What do you mean, survived? What's going on?
What's going on? End of times is what's going on. The whole world's froze out there.
I don't understand. Why can't I remember? Where am I?
I see you got some amnesia, do you? Well, you're in my barn. But don't worry, it's dangerous out there. But you're safe in here. I've been here a long time. Since before.
Safe? Safe from what?
I'm gonna make you something to eat. There ain't really much left out there right now. You really got no memory, do you?
No. No, the last thing I remember I was smoking by my truck.
Truck? Well, now I know you've really lost it. Haven't been no trucks now for a long time.
This doesn't make any sense. How can't I remember? I need to leave.
No. You need to get better. You're safe now, son. It's best you get some more rest, son. You're gonna need as much as you can get. But don't worry, I'm gonna do right by you. We're the only ones left. Good. You're awake. Well rested, I would hope. Although, I don't know how you could be with that storm out there.
I've always liked the sound of the wind.
Is that so? Well, to each his own, I suppose. We're eating good tonight. Tomato. It doesn't get any better than that.
What is out there?
You got a name, son?
Steven. My name's Steven.
Steve? Why, I'd have taken you more for a Peter or a Jack. Joseph is my name. So, whereabouts are you from?
North, I suppose. I lived by Green Bay.
Oh, I never been up that way. Never really been off the farm. My whole family is buried here. I can't promise you anything. Yeah, I'm lucky to have found this, but tomato, jackpot.
You know, I had a friend, and he would have said a grilled cheese was necessary right about now.
But I was always more partial to pairing it with a nice can of corned beef hash.
I was always more of a chicken guy myself, but, you know, he would say something about the cheese and the tomato together.
Well, I tell you, you're okay, son. I'll give you that much.
Are you, safe out there? I mean, I know it's dangerous, right?
It is dangerous, but it's very dangerous, but I am safe. I lost one already. We were safe here for a long time. There you go.
You know, I lost my best friend a few years ago now, I guess. When I found out, I just got on the road, drove, just kept going.
Something like that. It changes a man. You're never really the same after that.
Yeah.
You know, I had a son once, a long time ago. You actually remind me of him a bit.
What happened to him?
We were safe here. I tried not to promise him anything, but I did my best. Then, come one day, he wanted to leave. Protested. In the end, I lost.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. That's okay. Listen, you eat. We gotta get some shut-eye soon. think you're going?
Nowhere. I'm just moving around a bit. I'm gonna have to be on my own way soon.
I told you, it's not safe out there. You were out for 6 days, in no condition to be in this weather. Staying here is gonna keep us alive.
You told me your son left. You didn't tell me what happened.
He stopped listening. Kids, you tell them things, and they don't listen. They don't listen. You tell them and they don't listen. I told them it wasn't safe out there. I begged them not to leave. I can't let that happen again. Sure is cold out there today.
Yeah, it's cold every day.
Yeah, I suppose. Didn't sleep very well, I reckon.
No, not at all. You know, I've been thinking about that soup we had the other day, that tomato soup. That really hit the spot for me.
It does.
I mean, I know we don't have any left, but if I could, I'd be out there scrounging for some more right now. I know I can't go outside, so maybe you could go look.
Sure, son. I can definitely go get you some of that.
Yeah?
I'll be happy to.
Thank you.
Yeah, you just stay right there. I'll just go scrounge some up. I'll be back in just a few hours.
Thank you. That's that's amazing.
My pleasure. me do this. I can't go through this, Danny. I can't. Why, son? Why did you make me do this? I can't. I need more. I need a bigger dose. I can't. I can't.
Hi, my name is Shae Mclurg. I am the writer-director of the film Out There. I'm 24 years old, born and raised here in Sault Ste. Marie, and I'm currently a student in the Sault College Digital Film Production.
You ready? You
Yep.
ready? Okay, let's roll camera.
So Out There is a psychological black and white thriller that poses the question of who is the good guy and who is the bad guy for the audience to slowly unravel that mystery, as well as if either of them is actually safe with each other.
So what inspired you to choose black and white for a film?
So for me, it mostly comes from the challenge of it. I particularly like color, and I use it in a lot of my other works, as well as the artwork I do outside of film. But I felt the challenge that comes from trying to shoot something in black and white, as well as not just shoot it in black and white, but purposely how you can elevate the black and white, be it high contrast, or sometimes just trying to get those midtones. And that mostly the challenge is what inspired me. But I'd say for films, definitely films like The Lighthouse, Schindler's List, heck, even one got mentioned today that I didn't even realize kind of inspired it, but Dawn of the Dead. And a lot of those types of films. Classic thrillers especially, Alfred Hitchcock type.
what was your favorite scene to shoot?
Let me think. Okay. As morbid as it might sound, my favorite scene to shoot was actually the killing scene, primarily because of the challenge it required, trying to figure out how I was going to sell the effect of someone getting their head bashed in was something I spent about a solid 2 weeks just brainstorming. That scene went through a few revisions before we filmed it and required us to like jump around the barn and think of how we were going to do it. We switched different locations, and then when we finally got to it, it was just entertaining to film because I had to get myself completely under a table to the point where I was basically had my back just scrunched filming like this as I had someone pretend to whack towards me with a fire poker. And yeah, there was just something about that scene that it felt the most entertaining and required the most out of the crew to think of how we were going to do it. And it really reminded me of the joy of why I like doing that.
What advice would you have for future aspiring film crew?
Say the advice I could give to anybody if you're aspiring to want to make films or any sort of media is go out there and do it. You know, you could brainstorm the idea for a long time, but the only way it's really going to get done is if you do it. And even if it sucks, you know, the first things you're going to film, they're definitely something you're going to look back on and be like, oh, that was rough. But it got you started, and it's those learning mistakes that you make just by doing it, the more you do it. And I'd say also, don't be afraid of the challenge of things. If something seems more difficult to achieve or get done, it'll be more rewarding if you do it. Like for me, for me with this film, the films like The Lighthouse inspired it, and trying to do black and white with the lighting I needed, it was daunting at first. But when I watch the final film and I see how those choices with lighting paid off, nothing was more worth it than that.
What is an unexpected challenge that you had to overcome during this film?
I'd say an unexpected challenge, time. I had actually put a lot of thought into the time aspect of it. We had a full shot list. We had the amount of time that each scene would roughly take to get shot. And the unexpected surprise was that preparation was not really going to set things in stone. You might think it's going to take 45 minutes to an hour to shoot a scene, and then you get there and it takes an hour and a half just to get the lighting set up for that scene. And I'd say that no matter how much preparation I did in the pre-production, it was still a surprise once you're on the set, you're on location, you're dealing with all the people, the crew, as well as weather. For us shooting in January out in a barn, unexpected weather definitely. You can expect snow, but sometimes you can't expect just how cold it's going to be, or like a dry kind of cold. And I'd say especially that, just time and weather really took me for a loop.
As a black and white film, how did you have to talk with your actors and have them change their perspective on how to act?
Might give me a minute to think about that one. I'd say, especially with it being black and white, the one thing I had to work with my actors and change with them was the way they did their facial expressions, especially. I had known it was going to be a high contrast black and white film. It's what I was aiming for. And especially during dramatic sequences, you want that high contrast black and white to really elevate the emotion in the characters' faces. And there were a few scenes that while filming, I started to get a little more nitpicky with that, like how much emotion they were putting in, especially things like wrinkles. You know, if you tense your face up, black and white lighting will elevate that. And so, yeah, I definitely was more in tune with them on the subtle things that they did. I wanted it to feel like a thriller, classic slow burn. So because of that, yeah, it made me be more attentive with how they were doing their facial expressions and the speed in which they were going between dialogue.
How did you come up with your main story?
So the main storyline came to me in a few different ways. The initial idea came while I was playing Red Dead Redemption during the Christmas break. I had a bit of free time after the projects of my first semester, so I was playing a lot of that game. And the setting, the way the people in it talk, it being an old Western, it kind of inspired me to be like, could I write dialogue like that? Can I write that convincing, sort of broken English? And then one day I was just out on a walk at night and I came to a stoplight and I stood there for like 5 to almost 10 minutes. I think I missed the light just because the dialogue of the first scene started to slowly kind of come to me and the way the two characters would respond. And then over the next week, I just started to break down the scenes and mostly work out the end. I'd say, especially if you have your end in mind, it makes the rest of it easier. Plot out your beginning, your end, and then you can work out the little in between things. And yeah.
Can you walk us through your editing process throughout the film?
So my editing process, I will admit, is definitely chaotic. It is something I got to work on the way I edit. Because I'll kind of jump all over the place. But then at the same time, I like to go in order, if that makes sense. It doesn't, but it's the way I work. The main timeline is I would get to editing right away. We would finish shooting that day, and I would hop on the laptop, put all the footage, immediately turn it to black and white, get a slight idea of the color correction, and see if the lighting and the way we set up that day worked. I was also using the camera's monitor in black and white to see while we filmed, but it helped day of getting an idea of the rough edit and how it would come out, especially in terms of the visuals. And then once production was over, I took a little break for myself because I find that helps you kind of clear your mind, take a few days, don't think about the production, and then get to the editing, especially if you're the director and then you're going to edit it as well. You need that little bit of a break. But when it came down to editing, I went at it not in the best of ways. I was very temperamental in editing scene by scene, so I wouldn't get to the next scene's edit until I basically finished all the editing in the first scene. So color correction, sound effects, music, as well as clipping. And because of that, it resulted in about 2 days of no sleep and just constant working where I couldn't feel my legs from sitting at a desk. And yeah, definitely something I'm improving with my more recent editing projects. But it did result in the film being edited quicker because I was putting so much time into each scene. When I got to the rough draft phase, we practically had everything already edited just in the rough draft. So, yeah.
As a student from Sault, what made you finish the college and choose their program? As well as what led me to work with you and the special things you get at Sault?
Good question. For me, I have lived in the Sault my whole life. It's where I'm born and raised, and always thought about Sault College as an option, but was never sure of the type of program I'd want to go in. And I honestly didn't know that they had a film program until someone I used to go to high school with posted about it on Facebook. They had just offhandedly mentioned that they were grateful they took it, and that got my eyes towards it. I immediately looked up digital film production. I sat on it for about 2 months because I was just working full time and kind of worked out the logistics if I could do it. And when I figured I could, I immediately applied. And since getting into the program, it's allowed me to do projects and ideas that I didn't think I could do, and that I was kind of a little bit held back with the limitations of my gear. Beforehand, I was just making YouTube videos with my iPhone, editing them on a free edit software on my phone and just posting them to the internet. But now I had access to like Canon C100s, I had access to cinema lenses, LED light bars and lighting kits and boom mics that I could finally have my sound good. Beforehand, all the dialogue would have wind or anything you could imagine destroying it. But with all the gear I had access to, as well as having people in the course that were as well interested and wanting to put that effort in, it elevated me in a way I never thought I could do a black and white 19-minute drama piece that someone would actually enjoy. Beforehand, I would always just make short comedy skits because, well, it seemed easier. And with the access to technology at Sault College, as well as the help from the professors there and their experience working in the industry and knowing the ins and outs, it allows you to branch off in a way that I honestly a year ago didn't think I could do. I produced more short films in the last 10 months than I have ever. And that was monumental to me, especially because the year before I was going through a bit of a dry period when it came to coming up with short film ideas. And I think, yeah, just the access to what the course gives you, it can allow you to really elevate yourself and see what you're capable of if you're willing to put in that effort and the time.
Classic question. If you would change one thing about the film, what would it be?
If I could change one thing about it, I would... I wish it could be a little bit shorter while still making sense. And I wish we could have still had a few of the key aspects that were supposed to be in the film to help flesh things out. I wish those could have still been there. But those two don't really coincide. You can't always get what you want. There are things that you want in the film to make, say, a plot line make more sense or characters' motivations make more sense. But then at the same time, if you want it to not be extremely long, well, it means you're gonna have to cut out some of those things. And there were aspects from the script or from the pre-production that just didn't make it to the final film. And if they could have, I really wish they were, because I have seen some people be confused on some story aspects or character motivation. And that's something I feel you're always gonna have with any piece of art you make. There are gonna be those ideas you have in the production or pre-production phase that just no one will ever know. And as frustrating as it is, I try to just kind of move past it. But yeah, there are times I definitely wish that some of those aspects had made it to the film.
It being such a long film, what would you have done differently, or what have you done to keep the viewer's attention?
The one thing I felt needed to be done to keep it entertaining and so that people didn't get bored was especially the pacing as well as the acting. I knew when I looked at the script that if I didn't have two people that could actually deliver those lines good, actually bring emotion to the characters, it wouldn't matter. And the writing wouldn't matter, and the shooting wouldn't matter. You really needed someone that could actually bring what the script says and make it seem alive and real. And that was definitely challenging, but I think I got lucky with the two people I had, with Scott McClurg and Joey Schlepsy. I got really lucky with the two of them. They both brought their A game, and I feel if I didn't have that, the film would have just been boring. And the two of their performance, the charisma they have especially, having good charisma in your actors, it's really needed. And I feel without that, yeah, it just would have felt boring or would have dragged.
What's the process then for writing the script?
Writing the script? For me, my process is I actually start off by jot noting everything on my iPhone. As ideas come to me for scenes, I'll just quickly write them down. Not really in a neat order, just like point, and then just whatever the brainstorm is. And then kind of once I have those, I'll then refine them into another sort of jot note of the scene structure. Then I hop on and will do my actual script. And with that, I write it in order because I've already kind of jotted out the main ideas and then refine it from there. There were even script revisions happening on the day of the set while we were shooting. Little ideas that get thrown in, especially. But I feel the main thing that really helped was after I met my actors and I got their ideas on the script, as well as how they talked as those characters and a few things they might have thought of. I went back, revised the little things, little details, little pieces of dialogue, And that especially made it just, it sold it more, having little ideas from the people that are actually going to be playing those characters. And I think if you're the director that's also writing the script, or even if you're just handed the script, don't feel locked to it. Open some room for, creativity and improvisation, as long as it doesn't take away from the base of what you're trying to tell in your story.
What motivated you to go into the digital cinematography film? Okay, I think he asked.
Say for me, the love of film my whole life, and wanting to become a filmmaker, wanting to get my stories told. I was just doing that through YouTube, and it felt very limiting. And then upon hearing that there was a possibility for a course that I could take, meet people from the industry, get those connections, there was no doubt about it. And then especially getting into it confirmed to me that it was the right decision. And yeah, I don't regret it at all. It's worth every cent.
Can we just have a little background on where you started from?
I've been interested in film since I was a kid. My family have always been very film heavy. Movie nights were regular at my grandparents' house, as my grandfather was a photographer. He loved movies, he liked film. He had his own black room for a long time. And I almost got taught how to produce film, but not quite. And so yeah, there was always a drive to want to tell stories. I used to do art just digitally. I used to make comics and animation, and for a while wanted to go into being an animator and make films. But along the line, I kind of realized instead of just doing animation, I wanted to just make movies in general. I liked taking photography, I liked shooting videos with my friends, and yeah, along that path, I slowly got more into filmmaking. And I always watch movies constantly. I got known in my program as the film buff because I see basically everything. And anytime the question's asked, have you seen this? I've usually seen it, or if I haven't seen it, I've definitely heard of it and know about its production, just because I've just always been very interested in it. Especially the production side of films. I used to watch the behind the scenes featurettes on practically every movie I ever watched. Just seeing how it got done, I wanted to be part of that crew. And I've always even joked, even if I was just the guy moving the sandbags, I'd still get to be on a set, and that would feel worth it. And yeah, it's always pushed me to want to pursue it. And as well as making art. Just being able to voice your ideas, your thoughts, and your perspective on the world around you. It's really, I don't know, there's nothing that can really describe the feeling of creating art and putting what's in your head into something physical.
What camera permit did you use, and how did that affect your film?
The main gear that I was using was the Canon C100s. They're the main cameras that you will use if you're a first year at the digital film production. And then I was also using a cinema lens, Canon cinema lens. I was using primarily the 35mm to a 300mm, and as well as occasionally the 14 for a wide. Being in a small barn, you have two characters sitting beside each other, you're definitely going to want a wide lens. It's just not going to be doable without it. And especially having those lenses, the difference it made, being able to control my aperture just by moving something on the lens instead of this clickety thing that had settings. I could get right in tune to where I wanted, as well as being able to open my aperture much wider. The main lens that they give you only goes, I think, to 4.1, whereas the cinema lenses can go all the way to I think 1.2. It's much wider. You have a lot more control. You get a crisper image, as well as just allowing me to get a better idea of manual focus. I don't really like using automatic focus because one minute you're focused on something, you hit the button wrong, and the next minute you're focused on a little branch in the background and your whole shot gets ruined. I prefer just being able to manually control that. And using cinema lenses, it allows for so much more freedom in how you want the image to look.
How has film changed your perspective on filming in general?
For me, it showed me how difficult the mundane things are. Just having a simple shot of a character looking forward, sitting in a room with nice lighting on both sides of their face, yeah, that's difficult to achieve and takes a lot of thinking and time. And now anytime I watch a movie, I'm so much more focused on the lighting. I'll be watching a shot and I'll say to my girlfriend, that's probably like a light right there, and they probably got like and then she'll just get taken right out of the film because I'm just analyzing the lighting of it. Like, I wonder where they had the lighting guy, or wonder where they have the camera set up, or I wonder if this was done on a 2-cam system. And I'm just, it's not ruined it. It's actually, I find it makes movies more entertaining for me now because I'm watching them as a film, but I'm also watching them as a production and trying to analyze how, just from my own thoughts, how they did that. And then sometimes I'll go look up the behind the scenes and confirm if I was close or how off I was and how they actually did it. And as well as just the difficultness of shooting on location. That really opened my eyes with out there. Usually with my previous films, we would film in my apartment or my buddy's apartment, or to switch things up, my girlfriend's apartment. Just someone's apartment usually. And so actually shooting on a barn out in the middle of Echo Bay where it looks like the location you want it to be, because it is, that opened my eyes to both the benefits and the negatives of that. The benefit is it looks amazing. The negative is you have to deal with negative 20-degree weather in the middle of January. But it'll leave you with a good memory, that's for sure.
How important was it to match your field lighting to available light if it was the town was continuity?
For us, it was especially a difficult thing because we were in a barn, and it's a barn where there's creeks between the wood. So during the day, there's a lot of natural light that would come in. And so we would have to use, there was a lot of using like white sheets outside of a window to like block the light. And that became very difficult if a scene that's supposed to take place, all in one morning, was shot between 2 different days. And for some of the daytime scenes, we actually managed to pull that off quite well. We got lucky those 2 days. There was a lot of nice kind of cloudy natural light coming in. There was heavy clouds both days. But the nighttime scenes, those were all usually lit with our own lights, with field lights. And there is a specific shot that most people probably wouldn't be able to tell, but every time I watch it, I can tell it's shot on 2 different days because I can see just how we were ever so slightly off in the lighting. We had it pretty closely matched, but it's just that off a little bit. And it's something that most people might not notice if you get it pretty close, but if you don't, yeah, it's pretty jarring. And that's definitely a challenge. I'd say the main way to go about that, always take photos of your lighting setup. When it's set up, take multiple photos from different angles so you know where things are, how they're lit. We did that occasionally, and then me and my assistant director that was supposed to be doing that, we started to fall behind by the end. And there is where we ran into the problem where that one shot didn't quite line up because we were kind of guessing. Does anyone have a photo of the lighting setup? No one did. So it's all right, look at the footage and guess. Well, that is only going to get you so far, and it's probably not going to look quite right. So definitely plan, prepare, and just take photos. Even if you don't end up having to use them for a reshoot, you don't end up reshooting that scene, it's there just in case.
Now, knowing you were going black and white, were you always using daylight? Or were you using tungsten light knowing you must be black and white?
We were using the tungsten especially. Even during the day scenes, it's always out of shot by a table or something, but right in front of them where the window was, there is a big bright tungsten kind of light hitting them just to amplify that daylight. Because, you could be bright right now, but then it gets a little more cloudy and it completely ruins it. So we would mostly rely, even during the daytime scenes, on the tungsten light as well as our lighting kits that we had, usually diffused with a shower curtain. I didn't have a big enough diffuser at the school, so I just went out to Dollarama, bought a really big white shower curtain, did the job, worked. And even during a lighting scene during the day, we would sometimes have 3 to 4 lights just to fill in those midtones or to kind of diffuse the natural light, because we would have a lot of it. But I'd say most of the film is actually shot with the daylight, with natural light. There's only, I think, 2 scenes that take place during the night. So it was a challenge, especially. The barn was very brightly lit, and trying to tone that down became a challenge, but by the end we kind of had the hang of it.